Welcome to 5 Good Minutes
You're listening to today's inspirational message on the book of Esther
with Dan Irvin.
As we wrap up our week-long look at the 7th chapter of Esther today, I want to ask a question. Why did Esther do what she did in this chapter? Remember, putting her life on the line, literally, risking it all to save her people. What was Esther doing? What was she ultimately looking for? Well, I think what she was looking for is similar to what many of the other Old Testament heroes, even before Esther, were looking for. Relief, peace, rest. Rest for the oppressed nation of Israel. Moses, Joshua, David, they were all searching for peace, rest from their running, rest from their slavery from oppressive leaders, rest from their enemies. And whenever they would get that relief, if you've read any of the Old Testament, you notice that they might get a sense of, okay, we're out of this, we made it through, but it wouldn't last. It would only last for a little while. Now, if you flash forward to the New Testament, Jesus talked about enemies, and he talked about enemies in a different way. This is Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 43. Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rains out on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that?" Jesus' words, I go back to verse 44, "But I tell you, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you." This was a new way, a completely new concept. This is a chance, what Jesus was offering was a chance to really have rest that would last, peace that would not run out. It would outlast even the worst of enemies. Jesus was saying, in a sense here, that you don't need to fight against the forces of evil any longer, because I, Jesus, conquered sin, conquered death, overcame the true force of evil. In Jesus' life, his sacrifice for us was so that we could know what rest truly is, that we wouldn't have to try to do it on our own anymore. And it wasn't as if Jesus was saying here, well, just look the other way. When you see evil coming along, something happen, someone persecute you, he wasn't saying ignore it. No, this was different. This was bigger than that. Jesus was saying, I went to the cross to satisfy God's wrath. That's how much I believed in defeating the forces of evil, that I was willing to sacrifice my own life to prove once and for all that God's wrath needs satisfied and God hates evil. This was God's plan, to send his only son. The price that Jesus had to pay to give us rest. Have you wrestled with that? Have you understood that? I think if we understood it on a deeper level, and maybe you haven't yet, maybe this is the first you're even hearing of something like this, what might it change if you knew that it wasn't up to you, that the forces of evil have been defeated once and for all? What would it change in your life if you knew this? The book of Esther, it points to this. It points to this one thing, that God hates evil. He detests evil. And ultimately, not through Esther, but through Jesus, God has made a way for us to come back to him once and for all, to find true peace, that we wouldn't have to run anymore. We can have rest.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.